Hey everybody, and welcome back to Jay's Retro Reactions. Today we're going to be reacting to Taas Elu Kinta 2020, or as it says on the YouTube video title, Battlefield 2020. This won our recent poll about my next Finnish reaction, and all I know about this is it's, I think, done by the Finnish Defence Forces, and it's a simulation video of how Finland would respond if they were invaded. The other thing that was said to me was that the 1998 version of this is perhaps a bit darker than this version, so I should also react to that. So I will do that in another video, and thanks to the kind commenter who actually translated the 1998 version. Took a bit of effort and a bit of time to do that and send that to me, so I really appreciate that. Anyway guys, as I always say, enough of Jason talking, let's get on with the show.
Welcome to my party, we're just getting started. A life is a dream or a nightmare scarring.
Suomi on varautunut puolustamaan itseään erilaisissa sotilaallisissa kriiseissä. Viimeaikaiset kokemukset kriiseistä lähialueellamme ovat saaneet myös meidät muuttamaan ajatustamme puolustuksesta. Hyökkäys voi alkaa monella tavalla.
Helsingin alueella laajat tietoliikennehäiriöt ovat pysäyttäneet junaliikenteen ja ovat ruuhkauttaneet keskustaan tulevan ajoneuvoliikenteen. Kansaneläkelaitoksella on vakavia tietoliikennehäiriöitä. Maksuliikenne eläkkeiden ja työttömyyskorvauksien osalta on pysähdyksissä.
So according to what this lady is saying here, it looks like a cyber attack is underway, which in modern warfare is actually a very likely scenario. I myself worked in cybersecurity and private industry for many years before having to medically retire. It's something I know well, and it's something that a lot of countries, including my own country, are very poor at and need to invest a hell of a lot more in, particularly in the European Union. We are definitely not the best prepared for cyber warfare. And even if you think you are, you're not. Trust me.
Tilannekatsaus jatkuu Puolustushaarojen katsauksilla. Maavoimat, olkaa hyvä.
Lappeenrannan alueella juomavesi on saastunutta ja sabotaasia epäillään. Maakuntakomppania on perustamassa juomaveden jakelupaikkoja Lappeenrantaan.
Loviisan ydinvoimala on vaaratilanteen välttämiseksi ajettu alas hallitusti.
Uudellamaalla olevan laajan sähkökatkoksen takia pankit ja tavaratalot ovat joutuneet poistamaan asiakkaat tiloistaan.
So what seems to have happened in this scenario they're simulating is after the initial cyber attack to shut down the infrastructure and cause confusion among the government and the citizens, they've sabotaged the water supply and poisoned it, making it undrinkable. They've affected the nuclear plants, which have to be shut down, causing further panic and disarray among the citizens and the armed forces. And this is, from a smart operator, this would be a very likely scenario. However, I do know from watching Talvisoda and the Unknown Soldier, Finland's greatest threat comes from its nearest neighbour, the good old Russia. I'm not sure they're clever enough to do this at this level, but it's wise that you do plan it out and prepare for it.
Sotilaallinen jännitys Itämerellä on edelleen lisääntynyt. Naton mukaan toiminnan aggressiivisuus vaarantaa alueen siviili-ilmailun sekä merenkulun turvallisuutta. Useita läheltä piti tilanteita pidetään tahallisina tekoina. Puolustusvoimat tehostaa turvatoimiaan kaikissa joukko-osastoissa.
AJ, siellä on matalalla tunnistamaton ilmailus Helsingin eteläpuolella.
OK, Lajani, tunnistustehtävä, maali Helsingin eteläpuolella, matalalla.
So the Russians doing their typical tactics of buzzing airspace, which they do over here as well, quite a lot, and in the UK, and actually Ireland has to rely on the UK's Air Force to get rid of them because it's a little pact we have with them because we don't have any Air Force worth a damn. We do have an Air Force, but yeah, it's older aircraft. There's no fighter jets or bombers, so pretty ineffective.
Puolustusvoimat on tehostetussa valmiudessa, turvallisuustaso Bravo Plus. Puolustusvoimat mediassa. Puolustusministeriön viestintäjohtaja kertoo, että Rajavartiolaitos tutkii kaikkia 5 epäiltyä ilmatilanloukkausta, mutta ei tiedota asiasta enempää, koska tutkinta on kesken. Tilannekatsaus jatkuu Puolustushaarojen katsauksilla. Maavoimat, olkaa hyvä.
Maavoimat. Joukko-osastot ovat käskeneet sitoumuksen antaneet välittömän valmiuden joukot kertausharjoituksiin. Kertausharjoitusten enimmäisvuorokausimäärää on kasvatettu. Kohteiden suojaaminen on käsketty aloittaa suunnitelman mukaisesti. Paikallisjoukkoja on kutsuttu vapaaehtoiseen harjoitukseen Hangon alueelle. Valmisosa linnoitteiden rakentaminen on aloitettu sopimuskumppanien kanssa. Maavoimat päättää.
So So similar to what I've seen in Talvasoda, they're calling up the reserve units. Clever. They're deploying them for refresher training, so they're ready to be used if they need to. And also they're sending troops to protect infrastructure. Again, very clever. I do like, and I've said this before, how Finland is so prepared, how everyone has to go through their military conscription unless medically exempt, or I presume there's other reasons as well, but primarily medical. I wish we had it in Ireland. It really bugs me how unprepared Ireland is militarily. We have a load of leftists in power since pretty much the 60s. And unfortunately, this is not top of their agenda. The armed forces that we do have are equipped quite well and they're very well trained, but they're too small a number, 10,000 with about 2,000 reservists to 4,000 depending on the time of year. It's not enough. Most people here don't even know how to use a gun. Like, we don't face the same threat as you guys do from your nearest neighbour, but, you know, we're in quite a vulnerable position. All of the Atlantic cables for the internet run through Irish waters. We can't protect our own airspace, and there's no guarantee in a worst case scenario that the north of Ireland situation wouldn't kick off again. Plus, we're part of the EU now and we're supposed to be able to help, and we are part of EU battle groups, including with Finland. We're in with you guys, but yeah, we don't do enough, and I admire Finland for what you guys do, honestly.
Merivoimat. Porvoon edustalla on tehty sukellusvenehavainto. Valmiusalukset on käsketty sukellusvenetorjuntaan. Merimiinoittamisen valmistelut on käsketty rannikkolaivastolle. Kauppamerenkulun suojaamista on tehostettu kriittisten kuljetusten osalta. Merivoimat jatkaa yhteistoimintaharjoitusta Ruotsin kanssa Itämerellä. Merivoimat päättää.
Ilmavoimat. Lentokalusto on hajautettu tukikohtiin. Taistelutukikohdan harjoitus Viermäen varalaskupaikalla on toimeenpantu. Ilmavalvonta on tehostettu ja valmius ilmaoperaatioiden toimeenpanoon on välitön. Ilmavoimat päättää.
So a couple of quick questions and comments again. Sorry, I'm talking a lot, but this is really interesting. So my understanding of the alliance between Sweden and Finland is that everyone expects if there was an attack, it would come from Russia. It would hit Finland first, and Sweden's armed forces are primarily designed to assist Finland in that situation and be a rapid response force. The Swedish and Finnish navies doing the patrols, I cannot for the life of me think of the name of the islands, but I know there's a set of islands in Swedish waters that Russia has had its eye on for a while and basically gives a control over the Baltic Sea. So I presume that's why the Finnish and Swedish warships are on patrol together to protect those islands. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. And also one last question. In terms of Air Force, how is Finland's Air Force? Is it well equipped? What you have, F-16s, F-35s, how many do you have? Because I'm just thinking myself, if I was to, God forbid and I won't, but if I was to prepare an attack on Finland, given how heavily trained and armed the population is, and given, if I understand correctly, you have the largest artillery, I think it's the largest in Europe, over 1,000 pieces if I remember. So the terrain, plus how well equipped you are, plus how well armed you are, plus how well trained your civilians are, would make a land war difficult. Between 76%, I think it is, of the land covered in forests, lots of lakes, making using tanks and deploying troops quite difficult. I think I would start with the cyber attacks, start with the poisoning of the water, terrible as that is. But I would, you know, this is some crazy military dictator, a la Mr. Banana Man himself. What else would I do? I would probably use overwhelming air power. Destroy as much of your defenses in a surprise attack. So your artillery, your tanks, your barracks, your bases, as possible. And I think just continue that pounding and pounding and pounding of any troop movements, of any tank movements, etc. for at least a week. Would I bother using paratroops? No, I don't think so. I think to be ineffective. I think then the next step would be I'd have insider sleeper agents to assassinate key leaders of the army, the police, the government, create panic and chaos. What else would I do? Blockades to cut off supplies. Maybe attack Sweden from the rear if I thought the Swedish Defence Forces might be an easier take. I don't know a hell of a lot about the Swedish Defence Forces. And I'm just thinking aloud here. What do you think of my plan, guys? Feasible? Of course, most people watching this are going to be finished, so they're not going to help me plan to attack their own country. But I'm just trying to come up with options of what would be a smart way to do it. Enough of me rambling. We're not even 3 minutes into the video and I won't shut up.
Merivoimat on paikattanut sukellusveneen Porvoon edustalla ja varoittanut sitä käsisyvyyspommilla. Puolustusvoimat on nostanut valmiuttaan ja useita kymmeniä harjoituksia on meneillään eri paikkakunnilla.
The tanks, are they Leopards? Leopards 2?
Lisäksi puolustusvoimat on kutsunut lisää reserviläisiä kertausharjoituksiin. Tilanne on poikkeuksellinen. Onko tässä nähtävissä uhkaa?
No kyllä tilanne on tällä hetkellä uhkaava. Suomi on tällä hetkellä aggressiivisen vaikuttamisen kohteena. Tämä vaikuttaminen on monialaista.
Mihin meidän täytyy nyt varautua?
No tällä hetkellä viranomaiset varautuu niihin mahdollisiin kehityskulkuihin. Ei tässä kansalaiset tarvitse huolissaan olla.
Okay, so we have the military colonel advising people not to worry. But honestly, guys, in that situation, you'd get your kids out, wouldn't you? If you had relatives overseas, or at least to be going to Sweden, Norway, Denmark, countries surrounding you, stuff like that, you'd be going, look, can you take the sick, the old, the elderly, the kids? Definitely trying to get them safe harbor in neighboring countries. I definitely think private citizens would be doing that. The government haven't seemed to mention that. Why is that? Is there a reason for that, guys?
Ilmaoperaatiokeskus Kuulolla. Mahdollinen ohjusisku sieltä mereltä ja suuntautuu kohti Vieremäen ja Kuopiota. Tukeutumisupseerit, hälyttäkää tukikohdat ja konekalusto ilmaan.
Selkeä. Kuuleeko Vieremä tässä tukeutumisupseerit? Ohjusisku mereltä kohti tukikohtaa. Ilmahälytys.
Isot parvi ilmaan. Suuntaan 360 johtaa Paiskain.
Oikein. Vuoropäällikkö Vieremälle osunut. Vauriot tukeutumiskykyyn liittyen selvityksessä, mahdollisesti henkilöstötappioita.
Useita haavoittuneita. Tukikohdassa oleva Hornet-parvi käskytettiin ilman ajoissa.
Nostakaa turvallisuustason deltaa ja pitäkää PE-tike tietoisaan tilanteen kehityksestä.
Vuoropäällikkö, lentosuunnitelman reitiltä poikkeava siviilikone koodaa hätäkoodia ja vähentää lentokorkeutta kohti Kajaania.
Skyline 267 will land runway 25 after landing check into apron.
Kajaanin lennonvarmistus. Asematasolla ammuta.
Kajaanin lentoasema, useita ilmoituksia. 302 matkalla.
Poliisilta on saatu aseellinen virka-apupyyntö Kajaanin lentokentälle. Kentälle on laskeutunut aseistettu joukko, kenttähenkilöstöä on ammuttu. Tehtävään on käsketty Kainuun prikaatin ammattisotilaiden henkilökunnan valmiusosasto ja varusmiesvalmiusyksikkö sekä Uuden jääkärrykmentin erikoisjääkärit.
So the armed group that have landed in the airport, I presume are the VDV, or meant to represent the VDV. Well, a good thing we know from the unfortunate Ukraine situation is Hostomel Airport. They didn't do so well there, and they haven't really done so well in a lot of places they've been fighting. So, yeah, but still, you wouldn't want this happening in reality, would you? And as I mentioned, personally, I wouldn't use paratroopers. I think they have limited usage nowadays. To put them into enemy territory like Finland, speaking from the Russian perspective, given how heavily armed and trained the citizens are, is not smart, unless you have a way of reaching them quickly. And as I said, I don't think you can do that with the terrain, the forests and the lakes, and the population being trained and armed as they are. So, to me, it makes no sense. But it's Russians, so God knows. Sense doesn't always come with the Russian mentality.
Lennokki, menette ilmaan välittömästi. Selvitä toiminta täällä lentokentän alueella. Selvä. Muut aloitetaan lentokentän eristäminen heti kohteessa.
Tässä valmiusosaston johtaja kaikille. Tilannekuva Kajaanin lentokentältä. Poliisin havainnon perusteella kentällä on noin joukkueellinen tunnuksettomia sotilaita automaattiaseilla varustettuna. Joukkue on hajautunut terminaalirakennuksen ympäristöön ja sen läheisyyteen. Tehtävä toteuttaa sotilaallisen maanpuolustuksen tehtävänä. Johtovastuu Kajaanin lentokentällä on siirretty poliisilta puolustusvoimille.
Okay, so we've just heard on the radio that power has been handed over to the military. I presume martial law has been instated, which is the correct thing to do in these situations. They have forces being deployed towards the airport. They have drones doing reconnaissance. They're up in the helicopters to spot things from the air and troop movements from the enemy. Those helicopters look like NH-90s, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what they look like to me. Let me know in the comments, guys, if I'm incorrect.
Tehtävää johtaa Kainuun prikaatin valmiusosaston johtaja.
Ja David 5.
Vyksin päällikkö tuli paikalle ja erikoisjääkärit on tulossa myöskin tälle alueelle. Täällä on tulipatteriasemissa 10 kilsaa tossa suunnassa, lennokki ilmassa ja pääosat alueella. 50.
Tehtävä teille. Eristä lentokentän alue ja estä kiitotien käyttö kuorma-autoilla. Vastaa tulen käytöstä eristyskehällä. Kysymyksiä? Ei. Toteuta.
Okay, again smart. They're blocking off the airports, using trucks to block the runways. All makes sense.
Mikäs teillä on tällä hetkellä tilanne?
Meillä tarkkaanpojat lähti suoraan siirtymään asemiin. Pääosat on tässä ja ollaan valmiita.
Teidän tehtävänne on terminaalirakennuksen ja lennonjohtotornin haltuunotto. Kysymyksiä?
Devil 6.
Joo, tää on selvä.
Tornin tasanteella 3 henkilöä. Rynnäkkikiväärit kaikilla ja 1 ohjus. Lisäksi tornin sisällä 1 henkilö.
Scouting the enemy, observing, noting positions and weapons smart.
Devil 62, musta sivu, 3 henkilöä platalla, 1 sinko. Devil 2, valmiina toteuttamaan.
Toteuta.
Kaikille. Tässä Devil 1. Aloitan alaslaskun.
Black 1, mission high speed, arriving 10 seconds.
Leo, OS-johto, toteuta harhautus.
4, 3, 2, 1. Toteuta.
Nice clean kills by the snipers. One question though, it might be nitpicking, but if you had a platoon of DDV, paratroopers, enemy paratroopers in the airport, surely they wouldn't just have one guy with an anti-tank full up in the tower, surely they'd have snipers of their own and drones doing reconnaissance. Anyone agree with me? It's just my thoughts.
Devil 62, musta sivu, 5 mies tuhottu, 1 pakeni torniin, 1 punaiselle sivulle. 61, 2 pudotettu tornista, rakennuksen 2 valkoisen sivun pohjoisovelle.
Ja Devil 1 sai kaiken.
Devil 2 sisämenopisteellä.
Rakennuksen 1, Devil 1 sai.
Special Forces grip on the barrel.
61, 1 juoksija punaiselta sivulta parkkipaikalle. En pysty vaikuttamaan. 23 vaikutti. Kaatui maahan. Ei visuaalia. 37 näkee. Ei liiku.
Ulkoministeriö piti juuri hetki sitten tiedotustilaisuuden. Eduskunta on vahvistanut valmiuslain mukaisten lisätoimivaltuuksien käyttöönoton. Puolustusvoimat aloittaa joukkojen perustamisen ja valmistautuu tarvittaessa sotilaalliseen maanpuolustukseen.
Miina, päällikkö.
Miina.
Laske, suojamiinote 3010.
Miina.
Okay, Navy has started deploying mines, again to protect the Baltic Sea, and I presume those strategic islands I was talking about earlier. Why I can't remember the name, I know what they look like, I just can't think of it. The other thing was, in terms of arming the civilian population and all the reservists, I know a lot of Finnish people are allowed to take their weapon home. Is that correct after conscription? Or has that changed? Because I know things are getting a lot more lefty now, so God knows. I presume if you have it at home, it's a lot better for situations like this. But if that has changed, is there central weapon depots where in every town, every village, where people can go and pick up these weapons? Because it doesn't really make sense to have a whole population trained and then know where to get armed if it's just a few bases. Because if I was the enemy, I'd check out those bases. You remove half your problem straight away in terms of armed resistance.
Maavoimien tilanne. Operaatio Kajaanissa on päättynyt. Haavoittuneita evakuoidaan vielä. Vihollisen hyökkäyksen jatkaminen lentokenttää hyödyntäen on estetty.
Mistä tässä hyökkäyksessä oli kyse?
Todennäköisin vaihtoehto on se, että tämä on ollut laajemman sotilasoperaation ensimmäinen vaihe. Tämän jälkeen on mahdollista, että tulee lisää sotilaallisia operaatioita tällä alueella tai myös muualla Suomessa.
Mitä tällaisella hyökkäyksellä
halutaan saada aikaan? No, tässä on nyt useampia vaihtoehtoja. Todennäköisin vaihtoehto on se, että tämä on ollut laajemman sotilasoperaation ensimmäinen vaihe. Tämän jälkeen on mahdollista, että tulee lisää sotilaallisia operaatioita tällä alueella tai myös muualla Suomessa.
Joukkueensa hälytys, taistelukosketus.
Hätäkeskus.
Hangon länsisataman kulunvalvonnasta 2 henkilöä on ammuttu.
Tekijät valkoisessa Volkkarin pakettiautossa.
So the guys in the white van, are they the saboteurs and assassins I was talking about I would have to go out and take out key targets of your enemy, in this case Russia's enemy being Finland? Kind of like what Russia tried to do again in Ukraine in the early days of the war. They had like a couple of hundred guys in plain clothes milling around Kiev trying to get at Zelensky and some of his key targets, but most of them were killed and rounded up from what I understand. So
Charlie välittömästi komentopaikalle.
Valvoma.
Tässä tähy. Täällä ajaa rynnäkkövaunuja ulos laivasta.
Maavoimat. Merijalkaväkikomppania on noussut maihin Hangossa sekä Tektomin alueelle on tehty maahanlasku. Maavoimat on käskenyt lyödä Hangon alueelle tunkeutuneen vihollisen, tavoitteena Hangon satama.
So the Russians hid in a private transport cargo ship and had tanks hidden in there. Okay.
Tehtävään on käsketty Porin prikaatin taisteluosasto, jolle on alistettu mekanisoitu osasto panssariprikaatista sekä Kaartin jääkärirykmentin kaupunkijääkäripataljoona. Maavoimat päättää.
Taistelusta hyökkää reittiä Karhu Hangon alueelle, jossa lyö kohtaamansa vihollisen, tavoitteena Hangon satama.
Hangon alueen väestöllä on annettu määräys poistua välittömästi alueelta. Pelastuslaitos on aloittanut väestön evakuoinnin.
Again, quick question. Are the ports guarded? They're not in Ireland. Again, another strategic mistake. I actually think, as I said, we're very poorly defended. They use this excuse of neutrality, but we're actually not officially neutral. In our constitution, we're non-aligned. So that excuse doesn't wash with me. It's just politicians being politicians. They usually don't know how to run anything, particularly when it comes to a military. In Ireland, I'm talking about. So how does Finland set up to protect its ports? Does it have a permanent military presence on its ports? Does it have armed machine gun and artillery emplacements surrounding the ports? Do most of Finland's ports open up to a river that can be easily dredged or forded to allow further crossings up the river to be prevented? Do they have mine emplacements ready to be rolled out onto the ports so that they flood the waters? Let me know, guys, in the comments. I'm just thinking aloud of ways you could prevent further landings.
Läge. Fienden har slagit eldlännings- och övervakningstrupperna från öarna söder om Hangö. På anfallsområdet finns en plutonstark fiende utrustad med infanterivapen. Kompaniets uppgift, anfall och slå fienden.
Papa 1-0. 2 vihollisen kevyttä tankkia itään pisteestä Foxtrot suuntaan 17.00, etäisyys 100. Ykkönen, tuli valmis.
Alppa 2, Alppa 10, ilmoituksia ryhmän asemissa.
Alppa 2, valmis.
Tilannekeskus huomio. Ilmavoimilla torjuntatehtävä Hangon suunnassa. 2 parvea saanut käskyn torjuntatehtävää. Taistelujohtaja 1, sulle tulee Matrix-parvi. Ja taistelujohtaja 2, sulle tulee Kätti-parvi. Molemmilla hävittäjäosastolla torjuntatehtävää Helsingin länsipuolella olevaan vihollisosastoon. Ja ilmatorjunta hoitaa pääkaupunkiseutu.
Matrix 1, target lead group Lina 17025, 36000, hostile, 2 contacts.
Matrix 1. Rooster, lead group Lina 16520, 37000, hostile, 2 contacts.
Matrix 1, target lead group 37000. Matrix 2, your target eastern contact, commit. Matrix 2, committing. Matrix 2, targeted eastern contact, 36000. Matrix 1, target western contact. Matrix 1, Fox 3, western contact. Matrix 2, Fox 3, eastern contact. Matrix 1, Splash, western contact. Matrix 2, Splash, eastern contact.
Leka 1. Kärki vaihdettu.
Havaittu siiveltä. Alueella tankkeja ja kevyitä tankkeja. Silmä kärjessä Foxtrot 15 alueelle.
Josta suojaa oikean sivustan.
Kilpi, siirry siellä kärkeen.
Kilpi 1, GS 1, Sarka 1, Akku 10.
And again, I'm presuming that thing at the front of the tank we just seen there looks like a minesweeper, and it looks like an anti-tank minesweeper rather than an anti-personnel, just given the size of it.
Kilpi ohittanut silmän. Leka 1.
Kilpi 1, Alppa 2. 10 on miinaan.
Hotel 10, Kilpi 1. Aja Alfan taakse, valmistaudu evakuoimaan. Tarka 1. Hotel 10. Foxtrot 12, alueelle. Perussuunta 35, vika-asema. Eko lännessä. Haukka 10, tuhoa.
Akku 10, Leka 1. Raiva aukko.
That's definitely an anti-tank minesweeper.
Akku 10, Jyrä on jo liikkeellä. Keihäs, Kilpi tukee. Hyökkää kilven vasemmalta puolelta. Lyö kohtaamasi vihollinen. Tavoite hangaarin tasa. Leka 1, kilpi läpi miinotteesta, valmis tukemaan auton laidasta. Edessäni tankkeja, tuhoan. Leka 1. Kilpi tukee.
Alfa-tyyppi lamautan!
Okay guys, so another question for you. In the event of being faced with overwhelming invading forces by the enemy in terms of manpower, because we all know Russia has quite a lot of manpower, right, for the meat grinder, as we see in Ukraine. What is Finland's defensive strategy? Because I know in Ireland it's to retreat, we're happy enough to lose the cities, we'll attrit them in the countryside, is basically our view. We would keep guerrilla forces in the cities to just harass them all the time, disrupt their supply lines, electricity, stuff like that. But the main army would retreat to the countryside and just literally engage, kind of like how we defeated the British in a war of independence. Flying columns, platoons, hit and run, hit and run, hit and run, constant harassment and bleeding. Is it a similar strategy for the Finnish defence forces? As I said, if you're faced like with a 10, 20 million strong army versus what, you've got 5 million population, I think, give or take, similar to ours here in Ireland. So is that the plan? Let me know guys in the comments.
Porin jääkäriprikaatin taisteluosasto on edelleen taistelukosketuksessa Hangossa. Vihollisen merijalkaväkikomppanian eteneminen on pysäytetty. Maavoimat päättää.
Leka 1, keihäs 1, tavoitteessa. Leka 1. Kilpi, jatka keihään tasalle, torjuntaryhmity. Kilpi 1.
This is Alpha 110. 5 fiende infanterisoldater avvärjade söder om nivå. Kiss. Over.
Tulikomentoja 5 kertaa. Ampukaa.
Tulta!
Alpha 60. Ampuu.
Sorry, another quick question, guys. There's so many questions. Do you have lots of minefields at your borders? Yes or no? I presume everyone at the border as well is equipped with anti-tank weapons, javelins, etc. and NLAWs. Do you use NLAWs or javelins? Let me know. And in terms of anti-aircraft at the border, because that's where you'd want them initially, and flak guns, do you have lots of those deployed? How are you fixed in terms of preparation for anti-aircraft warfare? Do you have Patriots, for example?
Maali, ilmatyynyalus. Maali, ilmatyynyalus. Aktivera CCD. Lågflygbana. Lågflygbana. 23 low. 3, 2, 1. Tuo! Opet.
Merivoimat on tuottanut tappiota upottamalla yhden ilmatyynyaluksen. Maakuntakomppania ja kaupunkin jääkärit ovat aloittamassa taistelun Hangon alueella.
That unit there that was shown on the ships and around the ships is coastal Jaegers. Are they Coast Guard or are they Marines? Or are they none of those? Again, let me know in the comments, please.
Suojaan! Rakennuksen punaisella sivulla vaunu. Rakennuksen punaisella sivulla vaunu. En pysty jatkamaan. Tarvitsen evakuoinnin. 1-1. Pidä tasa. Evakuointi tulee vihreälle kulmalle. Sain. Hoppo.
Couple of things here. So we just seen 2 guys, Finnish guys, get wounded. It looked like a fentanyl lollipop they'd stuck in his mouth. Way after my time. I've only heard of them. I've never seen them. I'm from the old morphine days and we're also trained as well. I actually have, I don't know if you can see my head, super glue, where I got some shrapnel there, split my head open wide like that. So I had super glue put on me because it's very handy when you're dealing with a war wound in the field. The other thing we were taught to do is in a real situation, a real tight situation where you couldn't get medical supplies or the person off the field, is open a bullet, put out gunpowder, ignite, cauterize. But that's an extreme situation. The problem with morphine was as well, so we had these little syrettes, you stab in the thigh, etc. But the problem is that it lowers the pulmonary respiratory rate. So it's very hard to know what dosage will actually kill someone. I know I'm laughing and it's not a laughing matter, but it actually is, because I do know of one situation, I can't really go into it, but a guy had an abdomen wound, was screaming. The guys that were with him panicked and gave him, because he kept asking for more morphine. They'd already dosed the guy, but abdomen wounds are really painful. And they gave him a second shot, and he died. But he died because of the lowering of the pulmonary respiratory rate. It caused his heart and lungs to stop. And when the medics got there, they flipped out because they knew they could have saved this guy, because most abdomen wounds, you take a long time to die from them, and they're actually usually quite salvageable in a lot of instances. Bullet wounds to the abdomen, which this guy had. So yeah, it's a difficult one, and the poor soldiers were blaming themselves for killing him, but they didn't know, you know. They just heard the guy screaming, the morphine wasn't working, they seen lots of blood, thought he was dying anyway. So yeah, and those fentanyl lollipops, from what I understand, I'm not a medic, but they tape them to your hand or your thumb or something, so if you can suck on it, and then if you pass out from the dose, it falls out of your mouth so you don't OD. Although, I'm sure it's been tested. As I said, I've never used it, never trained in it, nothing. Fentanyl is quite powerful, something like 500 to 1,000 times more powerful than morphine, so very good at treating pain, but also quite tricky to get the dose right, and that's why you get so many addicts dropping all over the streets. But I'm sure these are down to a fine tune, you would hope anyway. Yeah, and the other thing is, they're often at risk for being shot. A, they're not helping the wounded of your enemy. B, not that I would do it, but I'm saying there's a lot of people out there who would. It's against the Geneva Convention. It's considered a war crime. But I know the IDF and Hezbollah didn't give a crap about medics when I was in UNIFIL in South Leb. But yeah, a lot of them wouldn't wear their Red Crosses. Officially, they're not allowed to carry weapons. Officially. And the Irish Army would never break that rule. I haven't seen it myself, but I've heard of where people would often shoot medics, not to kill, but to wound, because a lot of people care for their medics because he's the guy that's going to save you, or he's already saved you, or he saved your friend, and it's to suck troops out into the open because they have a natural inclination to go and help this guy who's helped all of them, or who will help all of them, and they become easy fodder for snipers or machine gun nests. So it's quite nasty warfare, but I think in this day and age, where you're just as likely to be fighting a non-standard army, a guerrilla force, a terrorist group, as you are a standing army that, like an officer, like a communications guy, like a sniper, like a sniper's observer, like an artillery observer, remove all insignia and signs that you're one of those and stay hidden and well camouflaged.
Vihollinen on tunkeutunut maahamme etelässä, mutta sen kärki on pysäytetty Hangon alueella. Vihollisen liike uudessa suunnassa ohjataan sulutteilla sekä tulenkäytöllä puolustustaistelun kannalta edullisille alueille ennen vastahyökkäyksen aloittamista.
Suomi on sodassa. Tasavallan presidentin puhe alkaa kello 16.
Just looking at that shot with the tube launcher, I'm not sure what type it was. Someone can let me know in the comments. But he went for the turret rather than the tracks. I would have gone for the tracks. Maybe there's a reason he went for the turret. Someone explain to me, please.
Puolustuskeskuksen reserviläiset ovat taistelleet sisukkaasti, mutta ylivoimainen vihollinen on pääsemässä murtoon. Alueellisena reservinä ollut taisteluosasto aloittaa vastahyökkäyksen vihollisen lyömiseksi ja murron ehkäisemiseksi. Maavoimat päättää.
The reserve group counterattacking sounds very similar to what we've seen in The Unknown Soldier. Immediately a counterattack. It's a very Finnish tactic, it seems, and one that's still prepared for today.
Uralla 150, jalkaväkeä. Lavautin, jalkautin eteen. 01, 02.
Bravo, iskussa eteenpäin! Bravo, iskussa eteenpäin!
Raulte alas.
Fairness, you guys have good camo. I do like the camo you have.
Vitti kaappi.
Toinen valmistelun aikaa 2 minuuttia.
one thing I will say, even though it's quite short, we have seen good usage of combined warfare as well throughout this video, which is impressive. We in Ireland can't do it, as I said, because our government won't spend the friggin' money.
Alueellisena reservinä ollut taisteluosasto on menestyksekkäällä vastahyökkäyksellä lyönyt vihollisen.
Tämä oli kuvaus siitä, miten Suomi saattaisi joutua sotaan ja miten puolustusvoimat varautuu sotilaallisiin uhkiin.
And there's an example of that terrain I was talking about that makes it difficult for any enemy to get across Finland, which is why in my plan I would avoid it.
Suomen puolustus perustuu teihin ja meihin kaikkiin asevelvollisiin. Te kouluttaudutte haastaviin tehtäviin. Onnistuminen edellyttää hyvää reservin osaamista ja koko kansan tahtoa puolustaa maata. Me olemme valmistautuneet pahimpaan.
And I like that message by the officer at the end. He's explaining why you still need conscription, why you need to be trained, why you need to go back to your refresher training. It's a pain in the arse, we all know it. But to be honest, you need to be prepared. It's better to know how to use a gun than need to know how to use a gun and not be able to. It's well made. And I know it's a bit of propaganda, it's the nature of these things, but it's smart given your history, which is why I think we're idiotic in Ireland given our friggin' history between Vikings, Normans, everything throughout the ages that we all had to fight off, that now we just sit back and, fund this small limited group of professional soldiers that we have that are very hard to recruit for now because the pay is so terrible. Don't get me started. It's a rant. It's not about Ireland. I'll do a separate one on that someday. But yeah, that was good to watch. It was good to see that you guys are as prepared as you are. And it's impressive for a country that's similar in size to Ireland in terms of population, how well prepared you are. And I wish we would take a leaf out of your guys' books. Really wish we would. Too many, as I said, hippies in our country, in government and places of power. But hopefully that will change soon. Anyway, guys, that was really interesting. Thank you to all of you who voted for it, my poll. It was really enjoyable to watch. I had a lot of questions, so please let me know in the comments what the answers are. Let me know what you thought of my plans to attack Finland. Not that I ever would, as I said. Just making that clear in case the Finnish Jaeger squad lands at my front door here in Dublin. And I'm off now to watch the 1998 version, and I'll release that in a separate video. So in the meantime, take care of yourselves, take care of your families. God bless. Bye for now.